What's going on, everybody? Welcome back with the Get Right Network, Get Right Fantasy Network, that is. I'll be your host tonight, Kendall VanDerBilt. With me is the one and only Evan Sather. And today we are going to be doing a little bit of an early look into the Dynasty rankings. It's a little too early for us to have really strong takes across the board, but we're all looking. We're going to enjoy the playoffs, and we're starting. If you're in Dynasty, you've already probably gotten a couple of offers. You're starting to look at who you might trade, who you might want to buy. And we're just starting our initial looks at how do we form rankings? Who do we like a little bit more, a little bit less? Starting to form those initial philosophies and takes. So we're just going to kind of go with Fantasy Pros ECR, just kind of in order. Me and Evan took a look here, and we've got some thoughts on a couple players that you probably all have a lot of thoughts on too. And we just kind of want to look at what's our early take, right? What's our early pieces of information we're going to be looking at? Do we already see them a little bit higher? And just kind of run through the board. Talking about mostly QB1s and a couple of QB2s here. We're going to do multiple segments of this. We're going to go through each position, and we're probably going to do multiple segments so we can get into the even some of like the bench versions of some of these, right? We want to be talking about the Malik Willises and the Mac Jones because they matter. But we got to fit this into a small window. So without further ado, let's do a little bit of Dynasty early look at the quarterback position. So right now, this is based on ECR. I pulled it today over at Fantasy Pros. We got number 1, Josh Allen, number 2, Drake May. And again, we can talk about every single one of these players, but for the sake of time, we're just going to cherry pick a little bit. We're going to be talking about them all at some point in time. Leave a comment and get in the Discord. Let us know if you've got a spicy take on a player or want our take on a player we missed. We have them. Just can't get them all in one video. So get to it. Like and subscribe. You know the drill. Evan, why don't you kick us off there? You got some things to say about ECR number 3 at quarterback, Jayden Daniels. Little bit of an interesting, not great, not what they had planned for the season, but you really, really like him even more than ECR has him.
I don't like him really, really more than what ECR says right now, but I still agree with him being in tier 1 if you care about tiers in your dynasty rankings. Jayden Daniels is currently sitting as my QB1. I haven't updated my dynasty rankings in quite a few months. If I had to redo it today, on a preliminary basis, I would put Drake May at 1 and Jayden Daniels at 2, because the talent is definitely still there despite the injury-riddled down season the Washington Commanders had. Jayden Daniels, unfortunately, was the victim of a Cliff Kingsbury offense that starts off phenomenally in the first year, but then it just plummets in the second year when all the other opposing teams figure out what Cliff is going to do. It gets stale. They don't adjust, and I mean, Cliff Kingsbury and his offense do not adjust for what defenses have figured out, and that is a big reason that the Commanders moved on from Cliff Kingsbury. Sure, they said that Cliff wanted to leave to pursue opportunities, but I don't buy that for a second. I think they wanted him gone because of the heavy decline in that awful Commanders offense this year compared to 2024. So right now, I have him at QB1. I'd be willing to drop him to QB2 behind Drake May, who we'll talk about on another show. Jayden Daniels is still an elite talent who just happened to get screwed by Cliff Kingsbury, just like Kyler Murray did, who we'll talk about a little bit later. And buy low on Jayden Daniels if you can, because he is currently plummeting in fantasy stocks all across the fantasy football community. What that means for you in your league, that's going to be up to the Jayden Daniels shareholder. But hey, if you can get him for lower than a first-round draft pick, that's a steal. That's going to be something that would get the rest of your league to be screaming collusion and reverse that trade right now. But if you could buy him lower than a first-round draft pick, you'd be the king of your fantasy football league, because a lot of people do not like Jayden Daniels anymore just based on the injuries and the decline of the offense.
So interesting, Jayden. It sounds like Jayden falls in a category. If I'm curious. I just got one follow up. We don't have a lot of follow ups planned. We're kind of just taking an early look, so we don't have in depth takes on them yet. But I'm curious when I'm going through like dynasty buy sell hold thoughts in my head, right? Whenever I'm looking to buy a player, one of the sort of mental litmus tests that I like to go through is I want to give them a kind of an internal ranking on how positively willing and excited would I be to go and overpay by like 5 to 15%, like a relative overpay, not a bad overpay, but a very clear, very known universal non-subjective overpay. I'm looking for guys that if I craft an offer where whatever I think my objective fair value is, if I can notch that up a little bit and I still like the deal, those are players I want to go after, right? For a while for me, it was Brock Bowers when he was coming out. I said, do literally whatever it takes. 2.5 firsts, I would do that in his rookie season. And that ended up being a pretty good take, right? It's not always the case. Is Jaden Daniels like that for you? Do you look at him as not every buyer is going to be this way, but is he a player that at his current, every price is going to be a little different depending on this negotiation, but do you see him as I would overpay for him and probably be pretty happy doing it, or is it value only?
That's a great question. I don't like overpaying for anybody in Dynasty if I can help it, because the risk often outweighs the reward. When you have one player that you overpaid for, in some form or fashion, it will screw your Dynasty team over from a championship. You miss out on draft capital, for example. Like if you're paying like 2 or 3 firsts for Jaden Daniels, yeah, you just screwed yourself out of your own future of getting a potential elite talent for the first round of your rookie draft picks for the next several seasons. Now, if you're like me and you spent a first on a Caleb Johnson, well, that's an example in which the person who gave away that first round draft pick would have dodged a metaphorical bullet there, because Caleb Johnson does not look good right now, but there's still time for him to turn it around. But back to Jaden Daniels, he's not somebody that I'd be willing to overpay for, much like everybody else. I think this is a case of value rather than just being happy with paying whatever you can get for a Jaden Daniels. To me, in my Dynasty philosophy, is nobody is worth overpaying for, because too many things change too quickly in the state of fantasy football to make it worth the while. And I'm not saying treat Dynasty like Redraft Plus. I'm saying don't go overboard with overpaying for Jaden Daniels.
Well, there you have it. Let's keep it rolling. So that was Jaden Daniels at 3. ECR's got tier breaks. I'm a big fan of tier-based just rankings as a system. Very, very big proponent. I'm just going by what ECR has right now, though I didn't set it. So here we go. They have a tier break from Jaden to Lamar at 4. So here's our tier 2. Lamar Jackson at 4. 5, Joe Burrow. 6, Patrick Mahomes. 7, Caleb Williams. 8, Jalen Hurts. 9, Justin Herbert. So that's tier 2. And of this tier 2, I think I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking about this. This tier 2 for me is I like everybody in it. It's easy to rearrange. It's difficult to get a lot of the players out of this tier or into it. It feels like the right group of guys for me, but where do I place them? If I had to pick an interesting player to kind of talk about here a little bit more, we're both Bear guys. I mean, look what I got in the background right now, right? Definitely want to talk about some Caleb Williams. Clearly the highest. The public finally got on him, and finally he deserved it as well. I guess my take on him, I see him at 7. I'm happy to see him at 7. My initial thoughts are, that's fantastic. How in the world could he ever get higher? But I don't necessarily want him lower, especially as a Bears fan. But what's really the take here? Is it just a wait and see? So right now, I actually think, based on a couple of factors, right? One being the head coach situation is just the biggest slam dunk I've ever seen, and it's early on. So that's probably only going to get better. And that particularly affects the quarterback position long term, right? Head coach, right? We get it. Like Sean Payton's always had a pretty good running back situation. That's why we ran for the RJ Harveys on the shelves, right? That just always works, right? But for the most part, it's really a QB stands to benefit from a sort of a long-term nailed the coach situation. But his weapons are really worth monitoring. Personally, I don't know if there's data to support this. I can look at the most recent Super Bowls and playoff runs, though. Having an elite offensive tight end, an athletic offensive tight end, is a pretty serious, chit to have in your belt, so to speak. Mahomes is doing it. The Buffalo Bills barely have a wide receiver one, but they do have a pretty good tight end room. Don't knock Dawson Knox as a tight end too. And Kincaid, when healthy, was very, very good the first half of the season. Injuries happens to everybody. But there is something to this elite tight end, right? It's happening to a lot. Detroit last season, when they were fantastic, Ben Johnson was a part of that, but so was Laporta. So if I'm saying anything, Loveland was the 10th pick for a reason. We're seeing his extremely high-end athleticism, mismatch ability, football thinking to go to the ball. these are going to help Caleb Williams quite a bit. Luther Burden is insane, and we finally saw it at the end of the season. Just look at the weapons. He's going to have some of the best weapons available to him. He doesn't throw picks, and he's got an offensive-minded coach in a division where you have to score 30 points to win. It kind of writes itself. If he gets 5% better, God help the rest of the league. He technically had a down season statistically because we were like the number one rushing team for so big of the season. If you change that the rushing touchdowns to some more passing touchdowns, or some of the rushing yards to passing yards, if that just happens a little bit, it doesn't need to be a lot to all of a sudden have him have a pretty explosive season. So if anything, I thought if you had to give like a standard deviation curve, I think the season honestly should have been a tiny bit better for him. I'll let the statisticians kind of do what they want to do. I'm sure we'll look at that. But if anything, I see Caleb Williams belonging in tier 2. And I don't think I can get him a lot higher, but I do think he belongs justifiably in this range. Any thoughts for you, Evan, on Caleb Williams?
Based on the tiers that we have on the Fantasy Pros consensus, I would agree that Caleb Williams belongs at the top of tier 2, but I'm willing to extend my tier 1 to more than just 3 players. I'm willing to go as high as 5. And honestly, like when I'm thinking about it, I would put Joe Burrow at 4 and Caleb Williams at 5, being that I think he's got a little more to offer with the offense that he's got now compared to Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson at their respective ages. I'm willing to put Caleb above both of those guys, which sounds like homerism. If you want to accuse me of that and you're listening to this, so be it. I will live with that. But Caleb Williams has shown a lot more than what his numbers, in particular his completion percentage and his total passing yards, have shown. He's QB5 for a reason in this past year's fantasy football leagues, because he's got what it takes to be the guy. The rushing touchdown upside definitely helped him, but he's not like the main guy to be doing these things. 27 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's a guy that takes great care of the football, in addition to only losing 1 fumble out of 8 fumbles that happened grand total this season. He takes much better care of the football compared to last season, his rookie year. That's with a better offensive line. That's with a better supporting cast. And that's with a real head coach in Ben Johnson, which he did not have his rookie year with anybody that was at least willing to sit and watch game film with him, which, I mean, I could go on and on about that rant about how none of the coaches in his rookie year were willing to do the basics of their jobs. But getting back to Caleb Williams's dynasty value here, he is definitely QB5 for a reason. He should be considered a top 5 quarterback from this point moving forward. Even if you're not a believer in the Bears offense, like I said, he's QB5 for a reason. He's shown he's got what it takes to get there. So put him up there. If you're like me and you prefer a bigger tier 1, I'm putting him at the bottom of my tier 1.
I'm not going to fight you for it. I like it. If I were to give a counter take, the thing I would say, and I'm not because of the reason I'm about to say, I would have said, Evan, in Dynasty, right? Mistakes hurt a lot worse than being right, depending on the type of mistake. But when you're wrong on a player, right? If you could draft a range of players, right? If you draft the QB8 instead of the QB4, it's bad. It's not the end of the world. I had to take a real long look at my dynasty philosophy when I got way too steamy on Anthony Richardson. I don't think I was wrong from like a redraft perspective, which I didn't end up drafting him a lot anyways. But from a dynasty perspective, I definitely had to do the biggest sort of overhaul in my mental process, learned a lot, figured out a lot, actually fundamentally changed the way I draft in dynasty startups a little bit. There's a risk rating in Dynasty where I think I have an objective edge. I study the game pretty hard. I think I can make positive transactional moves for my roster. And if I make 200 of them and they're all 1% better, my team's going to be a lot better at the end of the day. And I know I can do that. So I want to be risk averse typically, so I can let some of the skills and work and just grind that I have kind of do its thing, where if I'm too volatile, I could just get too unlucky to maybe recover from, if that makes sense. I would have previously argued that isn't Caleb a very volatile, risky asset that could be pretty swingy in the rankings? That's what I would have said. But my new opinion on this is you have someone that has great weapons around him, very good coaching, and that coaching looks like it's going to be around for basically forever. I mean, I think Ben Johnson is going to be a 15-plus year head coach. I mean, easily could be another Harbaugh, where, in 18 seasons, if we have to say bye to Ben after everything that Harbaugh did for the Ravens, that's a great run. I would be happy growing old with that. You know what I'm saying, Evan? but I just don't think he's that risky anymore. What I saw is a season where he consistently got a little bit better in a lot of areas, didn't go backwards in basically any area. That's huge. That's difficult for most quarterbacks, let alone one that typically has had those issues on a team that's typically had those issues, right? So all of a sudden you have a very grown-up situation in terms of how the position develops for the team. I just don't see him as risky enough anymore. Everyone's got risk. I think he's less risky than he used to be by enough that I'm now comfortable investing in him, right? So that's why I'm in the Flames. I love my QB5.
Yeah. Caleb Williams is he gives the illusion of being risky on paper because of the up and down numbers he's had in a brand new Ben Johnson system that we were just talking about. Rome is not going to be built in a day, if you excuse the cliche analogy that I'm using here, where Caleb Williams is coming off a non-existent system in his rookie year to a brand new system with Ben Johnson that he's going to need some time to get comfortable with, just like the rest of his team. And that's starting to show in the double-digit weeks where ever since week 11 at the Minnesota Vikings, which was, thank goodness, a game that we won, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay again, San Francisco, and Detroit. He has posted double-digit fantasy numbers, which is what you like to see out of your QB1. Now, if we ignore the Philly game win, which we just ran the ball down the Eagles' throats, he's throwing a minimum of 2 touchdown passes every single game since week 14 against the Green Bay Packers. And that's a streak that I don't believe is going to be going away anytime soon. This is an offense that is finally starting to find its own. It's finally starting to find its rhythm. And this is an offense that you want to invest in if you haven't already. Invest in Caleb Williams and his weapons, because this is a brand new Chicago Bears that is no longer just running the ball and playing great defense. They can throw the ball too, finally.
Love to hear it, man. Love to hear it. We still got some games to watch for them too, man. It's not every day we're watching the Bears past week 17-18. Let's go.
Man, it's been 5 years since we were last in the playoffs. We remember that Matt Nagy playoff year. We went 8-8, and then we just forgot to show up against the Saints.
Yeah, that was such a weird one too, man. I guess I'd kind of already given up at that point, but now they're starting to culminate. Like, man, yeah, we've had decent rosters for before too, man. Got to get the coach right. I think the herd podcast had they had Caleb. If they had to give like an NFL man of the year, they would give it to Ben Johnson. I thought that was super cool. Totally agree with them. Most impactful overall human being in the league right now. Let's keep it rolling, shall we? So Caleb Williams was QB7, then rounding out the rest of tier 2. Just to reiterate: Jalen Hurts 8, Justin Herbert 9. This is Fantasy Pros ECR, not our rankings, by the way. They got an early ranking set, so we're just kind of going off of it. This is an early look for us. Moving on to tier 3, according to ECR, is going to start with Trevor Lawrence at 10, and then Brock Purdy at 11, 12 Bo Nix, 13 Jackson Dart, 14 Jordan Love, 15 CJ Stroud, and 16 Dak Prescott for tier 3. And I think the first one we want to take a look at here is someone we're both actually pretty opinionated on this player. Possibly a split take, though. Talk me through your opinion on Bo Nix.
So, Bo Nix got the awful nickname of Mo Picks because of his early rookie struggles with taking care of the football and throwing interceptions. Now, if you're paying attention to Broncos games, you're paying attention to the Bo Nix highlights, you're seeing what the Denver Broncos have been doing with Bo Nix under center. There's always going to be those anomaly games where he throws 2 interceptions against the Titans, 2 interceptions against the Raiders, who are 2 defenses that are not good. But there's a reason Bo Nix has been QB 7 for 2 years in a row, and that includes his rookie year. And he has not thrown below 550 passing attempts. Throwing for 4,000 yards, I feel like, is just a bad argument because it implies that the quarterback is not good enough when that's just not true. Because running the football is just as important. That doesn't necessitate the quarterback to utilize his arm in every single game. And the rushing upside is also there for a guy like a Bo Nix coming out of an Oregon system that has no shortage of mobile quarterbacks. He's in a Sean Payton system that I think a lot of people were doubting at first because they thought Drew Brees made Sean Payton. But I think we can finally start to give some credit to Sean Payton for helping Bo Nix be the NFL quarterback that he is. He was a older quarterback coming in at age 24, and age 25 it was his sophomore season. We're about to talk about Tyler Shuck as an older quarterback coming up soon here, but Bo Nix being an older quarterback is not necessarily a bad thing. There's a reason older quarterbacks are more NFL ready. You give them more time in college, you give them more time, more snap experience, more passing attempts. Those are several keys to being NFL ready, and Bo Nix definitely meets that criteria where I actually want to move Bo Nix above Trevor Lawrence, and I think people are going to see me as crazy for that. I'm not ready to put him above Brock Purdy, but I'm ready to put Bo Nix above Trevor Lawrence. And go ahead and fight me on that if you want, but I'm not ready to count out Bo Nix as a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. The Broncos offense, as we were just talking about, has been a bit wonky, and honestly, I would not be surprised to see a Bo Nix breakout year as breakout within the context of a top 5 fantasy football season, being that I could definitely see him throwing for over 4,000 yards and a minimum of 25 touchdown passes, possibly getting to 30. And the reason I'm saying that so early is just because this system is finally starting to find its own, and we're hoping that the wide receivers pan out as well with Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, and who knows how much longer Cortland Sutton will remain on this team. But not having Tom Brady numbers doesn't mean that he's not the franchise. So if you can buy low on Bo Nix on a non-Bo lever, go ahead and do that. Just like Jaden Daniels, like if you're getting Bo Nix for lower than a first at this stage, you're killing it. You're crushing it.
So I'm not going to fight you on Bo Nix. Here's why. Most people that watch us know I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan out there, but I wouldn't call myself a straight up Bo Nix hater. I really wouldn't. If I did, it's saying it in jest. My biggest anti-Bo Nix take was never really an anti-Bo Nix take. It was an we're steaming him up way too much, and I was forcing everyone to go the other direction. I saw a little bit of lack of ceiling from Bo Nix. I scouted him in college a decent amount. I just never really saw like full NFL arm talent. I just thought good, not great. And when he came out, I liked his experience. I liked that he had played a lot of games. I need to look this up. I don't want to misquote it, but Colin Coward just had someone on, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, and NFL, not a fantasy analyst. And he was talking about, his number, and this is something, because I was thinking about this already, so I'm not stealing it, but this confirms, and it's probably going to be one of my biggest statistics as I analyze the quarterback position from college to drafting in fantasy. And it's going to be, I'm going to value experience and games played and quality of those games played extremely highly. And I'm going to give a flat metric on if they've played a lot of games, I like them a lot. If they've played a little bit of games, I don't care how Anthony Richardson talented they are. If they haven't played enough games, I haven't seen enough to even get excited about the little bit that I have, and I'm going to remove it from what I've seen. And if I look back enough, I'm going to see that would have played out very well, very, very well in a lot of situations. And I think we saw it with Bo Nix. Look, the biggest thing I was going to come and jump out is I was going to jump on you, but I keep realizing he's at 12. You said it yourself. Back-to-back seasons at QB7. These are the first realistic Bo Nix rankings I've ever seen, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think these are very level-headed, nuanced. 12 is fine. Now, there was a period of time, Evan, where Bo Nix was being looked at right with Caleb Williams, rushing quarterback, coach, got it all. He was being looked at as a tier 2 player, basically. He was being looked at as kind of close to Justin Herbert, if not objectively straight up higher than Justin Herbert. He would have slotted in probably 8-9, if not higher. That's where I started to take issue, Evan, is when he's starting to get put up into a tier of players that I think that's him on a good day, not him on a normal day. It's not going to average out that way. But I think where he's at here, I think that makes a lot of sense. I like him in the Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy range. If you want him higher, I can't really take umbrage with that. I take umbrage when you categorically say he's in a different tier than those guys. He's just straight up better. And I say he could be better, but he's not a separate tier, right? He's not the dual threat that Caleb is, right? He's not the offensive phenom that that Mahomes is or Burrow is, right? He can do some of those things, not a lot, but some of them. So that's, if I had to hate on him, that's my take, just so you know, and I guess the rest of YouTube. At 12, I'm pretty happy. Put him above Trevor Lawrence is I think I'd give that to you straight up. I think Lawrence might stand to lose a step. I don't know if I can get him over Purdy because I love my Purdy, but I think I like him there. So we'll see.
So I think that begs the question, being that we just pointed out that Bo Nix has been QB 7 for 2 seasons in a row. Why, at this point, would he not be considered a tier 2 quarterback, considering that he's shown that he can hold on to that for 2 seasons in a row and in his initial 2 seasons? Do we think this is sustainable for Bo Nix? I'm thinking, Kendall, your answer is probably no, because you just mentioned the numbers that he's been putting up is him on a good day rather than a normal day. Do you have more to expand upon than that?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. So I could go this, right? Do I think, when I look at the tier 2 quarterbacks, like, let me answer the question, why do I think he's not a tier 2 quarterback? Tier 1, 2, 3, guys, by the way, what we're talking about, not our tiers. These are like ECR tiers as they list them today. But if we wanted to make them our own tiers, I'm a big fan of tier-based drafting. So I might give a collection of players that I feel like he is more similar to draft around. And if that's his price, great. If it's not, then he's mispriced. That's how I define it. Why he's not a tier 2 for me is so the names in tier 2 are Lamar, Burrow, Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Hurts, Herbert. Okay. Herbert, I think, is maybe the odd man out there a little bit, but it's not the talent, but his situation. Here's why I don't think he's tier 2. Hurts can be the QB1. Caleb Williams, we and you both think he can be the QB1. I really do think he can. If not one, like QB2, 3, because one ran away with it, right? I really do think that's in his range of outcomes. Mahomes, we've seen it. Joe Burrow, we've literally already seen QB1. These are QB1 or clear, like, top 3, tier 1, runaway, 25 plus points per game, not close, right? I think they all not only can get there, but you can project them to be close to it, and something might derail them, but they can be. Bo Nix is one of the first guys where I'm like, dude, even in a great season, that's not how this plays out. It's not him throwing 40 touchdowns. With that defense, they're not running the score up with that defense, it's just impossible for him to play that good. It would be bad coaching, which is not going to happen there. It would be a lack of a running game, which is not going to be a problem for a while. I'm pretty steamy on RJ Harvey. So you got to tell me where the production comes from. And you'd have to make an argument for he's just so talented, it will just manifest. And I don't see that happening in a projectable fashion. I could project him for QB7 all day. I could project him for, like, hey, upside case. I could see him as finishing QB5 with some pretty solid rushing upside. Absolutely. I would never project him as a top 3, and I'll fight you on it all day, right? If you don't have a range of outcomes that high, I can't get you into the tier that's supposed to be fighting for those range of outcomes, because that's what you're paying for, is to be in that conversation and letting volatility kind of come and go as it is. That's why.
Yeah, I am never going to fight you on acting like Bo Nix is a top 5 quarterback when I don't believe at all that he's a top 5 quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback. You can make a case that he is definitely top 10 based on what he's been able to put up so far. But let's put out something else before we move on that's also kind of surprising about Bo Nix. He may have the nickname of Mo Picks, being that he has his rookie year, he had a 29-12 touchdown to interception ratio and then 25-11. But when he takes off with the football, he holds on to it. He only had 3 fumbles his rookie year and 4 in his sophomore year. 2 of those he lost. He does not lose the football much when he holds on to it. So surely that's got to add on to some overall long-term dynasty value for Bo Nix, does it not?
From a tendency standpoint, right? Like, problems can become worse problems. If from a tendency standpoint, if a coach has to make a week of practice about, can our quarterback not fumble the ball, that is a waste of a week, and that can set your team back. They don't have to worry about that. They can grow as men and adults and players in more nuanced ways, and so that's huge from a tendency standpoint. From a risk profile that we talk about, players can make their biggest swings, both even in the real NFL and then subsequently in the fantasy realm, if they just have the risk to do something super stupid. I don't think he's in a situation where we were just talking about risk. The thing I like about Bo Nix from a long-term dynasty standpoint is like he's safe in my opinion. He's going to be there forever. The team's just set up for him. Like even if he was having some down years, he would have infinite runway. And I just don't think he's going to have down years. So it's ultimate safety. Yeah, great dynasty situation. I think we both agree the lack of ceiling. I think you make a good point. You say he's a top 10 quarterback. Nuanced conversation, top 10 NFL, top 10 fantasy dynasty quarterback. He's pretty close for me there. I'm finding out that my biggest take is I want to fight the Bo Nix is a top 8 quarterback people. I want to fight them, and I think they should be fought. I'm not going to fight the top 10, top 12 people. It's nuance for a reason. I've only been fighting to lower him in the rankings a little bit, not to remove him. So
top 8 seems like we'd be splitting hairs at that point, in which I just want to stick to top 10 because I think that's reasonable, because we don't know how every single game is going to turn out, because game script is such an unpredictable bitch to have, where, you know, if they run the ball more than they throw the ball, that's not a negative on Bo Nix. That's just the way the Broncos decided to win the game. It's the same thing with Caleb Williams, who we were just talking about. Sometimes the Bears do that like they pounded the ball against the Eagles on the ground, and Caleb didn't have to throw that much. So I think top 10 is reasonable for Bo Nix, and I will not fight you on top 8.
You want to go top 8? I won't be arguing for Bo Nix. I'll just argue against Jalen Hurts, and we'll still be fine. All right, there we go. All right, so that's Bo Nix at 12. Let me talk about this next guy. I seem to be a little spicy on him. Classic Mike, wherever you are, with your very adorable child over there, being super dad. Cheers. I'm gonna get steamy on your boy Jackson Dart for you. And I already was steamy on him to begin with. So I guess I don't have like a crazy take on Jackson Dart. I'm throwing some caution to the wind. I'm shading that I think Jackson Dart at 13 could be a hair low. It could be 2 hairs low, actually. I really think that's closer to a floor for him. I tend to like the Giants as a organization, as a Madden player rating. I just think they have a decent accumulation of talent. I think not having Malik Neighbors all season was a big deal. If you're as high on Malik Neighbors as I am, and I have to be because I'm super high on Rome, I'm super high on that whole class. I watched that class, and Neighbors, he was special, man. And then I saw him in the NFL, and I saw a guy who was playing up against the best corner in the team, and these are good corners. And I just saw him just being better than them. Just immediately from day one, I looked at him and I'm like, oh no, he's Jamar Chase good. He's like different good. He's like the best the NFL can throw at him is going to be tough to still stop him. He's just that athletically gifted. We'll see how the injuries pan out. One bad one so early is obviously not great, but it happens, right? Me and you were pretty in on CMC, and that worked out pretty well. It always does fade the injury, especially at wide receiver. I'm steamy on Neighbors. I like the run game. I think there's some consistency there. I think, well, I know they're going to get a new head coach, but I think based on what's on the market, I think they're going to get a very good head coach. I mean, either get Harbaugh or Stefanski, I think. And my goodness, I think Stefanski would be an amazing fit. He already knows how to make, you know, the run pass option look really good. Him with a mobile quarterback. And, you know, we could say we want to about Scadaboo long term, but I think at least in the short term, if he can come back and do what we saw, or at least close to it, like there was a lot of good stuff to watch. Not the RB show, not the long-term show, just how do we get Jackson Dart good show. I think he's got talent around him. He's going to have a better coach around him who can hopefully create some culture, and just really good weapons. Jackson Dart was really good with Wan'Dale Robinson as his wide receiver 1. When Wan'Dale becomes his wide receiver 2, that is a plethora of weapons. That is an ouch. If you added a tight end to that, they would be scary, but they're not. You know, they have some holes. I'll take Neighbors, give him a deep ball on Neighbors, give him a pretty, what could be a pretty elite, a little bit of an RPO game, definitely a play action game. And I think their defense has enough holes in it that they're going to have to put up some points. Offenses in the NFL keep getting pretty good. So at 13, we won't shade Bo Nix here, but we've got Trevor Lawrence at 11. We got Brock Purdy, Lawrence at 10, Purdy at 11. We got Herbert at 9. For me, I'm just making the argument that I think Jackson Dart is not a worse throw of the football than Jalen Hurts, because neither are like fantastic or mercurial at it. But why can't Dart be just as productive as Justin Herbert at 9, sitting at the bottom of tier 2? I think if the Giants get their stuff together, and if Dart's not a bust, and I don't think he is, if he's just a reasonable person, we don't like the concussions. I drafted a lot of Olave for the same reason. Things don't have to stay that way. If that happens, if Dart doesn't bust, I don't see too many worlds where he's not like clearly a top 10 quarterback, the low end of it, but clearly top 10. I feel like he has too much risk to baked into his rating. And I think he's already better than Bryce Young, who has seemingly unlimited rope, even though he's not the reason they're in the playoffs. So am I going to get too steamy? No. But would I possibly raise him at or into the top 10 from 13 or project it safely? Not safely, but I would project it.
Ooh, Jackson Dart is one rookie quarterback where I have no idea where I want to put him in my dynasty rankings at this point because, yes, he offers a lot of upside in rushing. We don't know if he has enough weapons on the New York Giants to make it worth his while. Malik Neighbors coming back is going to be great. You just mentioned that Wan'Dale Robinson has been fantastic with Jackson Dart throwing to him. Theo Johnson is even starting to look like a competent pass catcher at the tight end position. So Jackson Dart is starting to open up this Giants offense in ways that other quarterbacks after Eli Manning have not been able to do, including Russell Wilson. Now, ultimately, Jackson Dart, you mentioned the concussions earlier, Kendall. I want to mention something that is a little scary, which is why I'm so worried about Jackson Dart's future with the New York Giants. So you remember when the Giants played the Bears? Dart played 71% of the snaps and had to miss the rest of that game because of the concussion. He happened to bang his head on the ground, and it happens. It's physics. You know, it's a good thing they wear helmets because it saves lives. And he had to miss the rest of that game against the Bears. Outside of that game, in 10 career games so far, Jackson Dart has been checked 5 times for a concussion. 5. This is why I am worried about the future for Jackson Dart because it's. I think this is similar to Tua Tagovailoa, despite the severity being a lot less with having to be checked for a concussion that many times. If this keeps having to happen, I don't know if Dart is going to have a long career in the NFL. And I hate to say that about anybody, but Brian Daboll damn near ruined Jackson Dart and in his rookie season. He put in Jackson Dart way earlier than he was ready for just to try and save his job, which I have no respect for Brian Daboll for doing that. Now, I'm not saying that Jackson Dart did a bad job with his opportunities, but you want to protect your asset in Jackson Dart while you rebuild this weak New York Giants team with a weak offensive line and a weak defense that can't win games. I don't like risking young quarterbacks like this when the Giants stand no chance of doing better than... How many games did they win this year? 3?
Yeah, it's 3 or 4. I think 3.
Yeah, so they weren't even close to 500. So, sorry not sorry. I don't like Jackson Dart being out there against the Commanders, the Vikings, the Raiders, and the Cowboys, and you got to give your rookie quarterback experience later in the season, but when there's really little to play for behind an offensive line, and he's already had to be checked for a concussion 5 times this season, I don't like it. I think that's reckless, and I think that you're setting up Jackson Dart to have a failure of a career health-wise if that keeps up. So that being said about Jackson Dart, I don't know where to put him in my dynasty rankings at this time. He's currently sitting at ECR 13. I think putting him above Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, and Dak Prescott, it's a little too soon. I know we have the rushing upside with Jackson Dart, which is why he's probably a lot higher. I don't like him that high in tier 3. I would consider putting him in tier 4 above Cam Ward right now. I would put him at 18 if it was up to me.
You make a compelling point. In that part of my new philosophy is I feel like I just actually gave almost like a redraft take on Dart when my dynasty philosophy has been gearing more towards just stay away from the true cliffs, that can really fall off. Like if you get really good at reading the market a little bit in Dynasty, you can kind of just play the value game. I bought a little bit of Trevor Lawrence when he kind of dipped below. And I mean, honestly, there are parts of this time this season that looked atrocious, be honest with you. We got there in the end, made a little bit, it got a little bit of value on it. But if you can play that right, I bought low on CJ Stroud just because I'm like, he's like dead right now. He's going to get like 10% better. Like you can do that stuff in the market pretty well when you get solid at it, right? Not all the time. You're going to win some, lose some, try to win a little more than you lose, right? Dart seems like the guy. You can win a little bit. You can win a little bit. When you lose, it's Dynasty, right? You're just buried for years and you've got to climb out of it, probably with a little bit of luck. Like my new philosophy is even though I think Dart could outperform, I would probably be more comfortable drafting the next quarterback below him just to avoid disaster, take more risk at a position that can pay off more with the risk, like short term, but you can still sell. If anything, I think I might be saying I might draft Dart with the intention of if he doesn't get a million concussions right away, I think he'll outperform his ranking in the short term. And then I'll want to sell my risk that's appreciated as soon as possible. So I'd be looking for by week 5 or 6 when bye weeks start hitting. He's like a guy I'd be looking to sell, which means I'd be actively looking to pick up a QB 3-4. So I could afford it. And that might be a short-term profitable situation. So I know I'm getting a little nuanced into some market watch, some buy sell, which we don't really have time for, but you've changed my mind a little bit. And I think Jackson Dart is a short-term hedge fundy type of market move in the short term. Buy not to hold, buy with the intention of selling as soon as the stock hits blank and we think we have reasonable targets for it. But I think you're right. Long term, I don't know if he's in the NFL 5 or 10 years. He might not. I hope he is.
Yeah, I hope he is too. Don't hear what I'm not saying. We're not wishing for Jackson Dart to end his career, but based on the way Brian Daboll horribly misused Jackson Dart, I am very worried about his future, and I'm with you on this one, Kendall. Like, by next season, if I'm the Jackson Dart shareholder, I'm selling him for a first if I can, because he's easily a high-end first-round draft pick, especially in Superflex leagues, right? So I would happily sell Jackson Dart to get away from the awful New York Giants so that I can spend that first on something hopefully better. So I'm with you on that, Kendall.
Yeah, he'll be an interesting one, yeah, because you can't sell him right now for that. But if you can hold for a couple weeks, I think he'll outperform he'll outperform his ranking every single week up until it's not the case, and it's bad in that case. So you've got a couple week window of you can't trade draft picks for him, I think, because the draft picks are super fun in value. But like by week 3, if Jackson Dart runs in 2 rushing touchdowns, everyone's going to run to the phones, and then you've got a nice window of immediately flip him for the rookies that haven't hit yet.
Well, what I will say too, Kendall, is that is it entirely true that you can't sell him for a first right now? Because he's got a lot of hype behind him. There's a lot of people who are saying he has high-end QB1 upside in fantasy going into year 2. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do understand the take. I understand why people believe this because of the potential he flashed in a lot of games this season outside of the concussion checks and injury scares that he's had all season long. A lot of people are excited about Jackson Dart. I mean, he's a part of the exciting whites with Cam Scadaboo. So I think a lot of people have that in mind, and they're ready to roll with Jackson Dart in year 2. Like if I have a great offer for him right now, I'm happily selling him.
Well, yeah, I'm never turning down a great offer, right? I mean, everything in moderation, everything with nuance, right? Most of the leagues I'm in, everyone watches the show, and so they have a lot of pretty good market nuance. But it's more or less, if they don't have to overpay, they're not going to. And if the news isn't overwhelmingly positive, if they're personally super high on a player, just like we mentioned earlier, they're not going to overpay based on their own feeling. Like they're not going to do it. They might see if they can buy him for like 2% more than market because they like him, but not 10% more. So I'm not seeing the aggressiveness on values. I'm seeing the aggressiveness in the conversation. I'm not seeing anybody pony up high-end rookie picks. Everyone wants to trade the 110 for him, but I hate the late rookie picks this year. I'm pretty much after 107, 108, I'm fully out. I think it's massive teardrop probably at the 106 even, and I don't like the quarterbacks either, including Mendoza. He's okay. I just think he's got a low ceiling, the high floor, low ceiling. I love the first half. First half of the round, love it. I think it's this miraculous class in the first half, but I don't see how you're getting the 103 for him. I just don't see it. Like, and at that point, it's even pretty close. Is he worth more? I'm not sure. I love the wide receivers early this round, so I haven't seen it personally. I'm in a lot of, I think 26, 27 dynasty leagues right now, And I think I've got a pretty good macro across all the markets, and I'm just not seeing him moving yet. But this is more of a historical dynasty thing, right? I think the best thing to do is you don't want to trade for rookie picks around the draft because they're priced as high as they'll ever be. As soon as the football happens, rookie picks go down in value quite a bit because we just don't care as much. Sometimes we do play in a 1-year window if we're trying to win now. So I do agree. Do what you can with them. I would sell now if I could. I just don't think you can, but we'll see during the draft. Things get crazy. But hey, we're going long. Let's wrap up. Let's get some takes. We got some fun ones here coming up. I think we're pretty opinionated in lots of various ways in these next. We got 3 more guys to cover. I'll just quickly list. That was tier 3. Let's go through tier 4. Again, tier 3 ended at QB 16. Dak Prescott. Start of tier 4 per Fantasy Pros ECR is at 17 Baker Mayfield. At 18 Jared Goff. 19 Cam Ward. 20 Sam Darnold. 21 Kyler Murray, 22 JJ McCarthy, 23 Tyler Shuck, 24 Bryce Young, 25 Matthew Stafford. And I think, Evan, you're up. We'll save a lot of these mid-rangey guys at the top of the tier 4 for another day. A guy you and I both love to hate, Kyler Murray. Talk to me.
So, Kyler Murray. Where do I even begin with you? He started... ECR. So he started off playing in 5 games for the Arizona Cardinals. He had a foot injury that kept him out rest of season. I do believe that the foot injury was that serious where you could make a case to keep him up for that long. But when he's the highest paid player on the Arizona Cardinals and the team is not rushing to get him back, that's a negative sign. That is a red flag. That goes to show that the Arizona Cardinals are done with Kyler Murray. They want to move on from him. They don't see him as the future anymore. They're fed up with his lack of performances that are not getting any better since 2020, quite frankly, because if you remember his rookie and sophomore seasons when Cliff Kingsbury was his coach, he was the QB 6 and the QB 3. Ever since then, he fell off to QB 10, and then he started having injuries that would keep him out for 2022, 2023, and then he finally played a full season in 2024, and he didn't get any better as he finished as the QB 10. Now, rushing touchdowns are why he looked better than what he actually was in the year 2020, because he had 11. He's never had anywhere close to 11 rushing touchdowns since his sophomore season, the COVID year. He, in his best year, he'll have 5 rushing touchdowns, which you love to see from a quarterback. But he hasn't gotten better. And all the red flags were there if you ever read his prospect profile when he played for University of Oklahoma, how he bragged about having it naturally up here and he doesn't need to watch game film to play well, and he carried that with him into the NFL. And when the Arizona Cardinals talking about his contract extension after his rookie deal was up, they had to insert that 4-hour minimum per week homework clause because he was not watching game film. He was choosing to play Call of Duty, watch movies, play on the internet on his tablet. Like, this is almost like having to deal with a child in a way, which is embarrassing if you're a professional quarterback. You're a grown man in your 20s. And that's everything pretty much you need to know about Kyler Murray's work ethic, which also falls in line with why he can't stay healthy, why he isn't living up to his first overall draft capital in 2019. Kyler Murray right now is owed $54.7 million in dead cap if the Arizona Cardinals were to cut him right now. Trading him is going to be a bitch too, because who in their right mind is going to trade for Kyler Murray, considering that, 1, he's not 100% healthy, and 2, his work ethic already says everything we need to know about who he is as a starting NFL quarterback. So it would not surprise me one bit to see that the Cardinals are going to be stuck with him until 2027, his final season, because he's way too expensive to cut. Because even if you were to cut him after 2026, he still has a $7.2 million dead cap, which it doesn't suck, but that's still a lot of money to pay somebody to not play for you. So I would not be surprised if Kyler Murray has to stick with the Arizona Cardinals in the meantime. But if you have Kyler Murray on your dynasty team, his dynasty value plummeted. It's going to be nearly impossible to trade him for anything worthwhile. At this point, you just have to sell him for whatever peanuts are offered to you, if there happens to be anybody in your league that's willing to take a shot on him, because Kyler Murray has no more value that I want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
Yep. You hate to pile on when it's just so true. I guess the only thing I'd say to the Kyler Murray owner that's desperately looking for some way out, I would tell you this. It's going to be a long off season. Okay. It's going to be ugly. He's going to be a favorite to pile on, right? What we know is bigger problems are bigger problems. When everyone has a beautiful, pristine team because no one's playing football right now, right? In fantasy football, it's going to be easy to pile on them. When the season starts and other people are, ACL done, MCL done, things happen, bye weeks, we're going to slightly forget the ugly Kyler narrative because we're talking about other ugly crap, and we'll have fatigued ourselves out of the Kyler Murray hate. We've permanently lowered him in our mental tier list, but right now we love to hate him. By next season, week 3, week 4, we'll have a fresh new face to hate or faces to hate probably, and the hate will die down. Other people will need him. That's when you're going to get, if you're getting a peanut and a half now, you'll get 2.5 peanuts then. They are still categorically peanuts that you're getting. You gotta live with that. But they will be more if you hold. I do think you hold for a slightly better window, but be ready to take what you can get, kind of as Evan said. I do think you can wait just because no one's going to even give you face value right now or 10% below. They're just going to say everyone who doesn't want him right now is only going to see him going lower. But at some point in time, he's going to hit a bottom, and everyone gets this in fantasy. It's a fantasy epidemic where they have the whole like value trap thing of like, but dude, he was like the QB6, and right now he's QB21. Like, what if he was just like QB12? Like, I could be buying the QB12 with upside. People are going to talk themselves into a conversation with you about him. Don't get crazy. Don't get thirsty. Don't make someone feel like they're paying too much for Kyler Murray, because this is the last time you're going to have that conversation. I would wait a little bit, and I would take literally whatever you can get. Second-round picks aren't terrible. That's where Jackson Dart was picked from. That's where Tyler Shuck was picked from. They don't always hit, but get the conglomeration. We can talk about it later. Get in our Discord. We go ad nauseum, especially on nuanced trades. I will find a way to get him off your team in a palatable way. It's going to be a great trade. Looking forward to working on it with you. As of right now, Kyler Murray is so far off my board. I wasn't going to mention this, Evan, by the way, but I think it is absolutely disgusting that we have Sam Darnold at 20 and Kyler Murray at 21, because there is several Grand Canyons between those two. And how did we get here? How did we have this show? And I don't have a whole segment. I don't have anything. I just can't stand looking at Cam Ward higher than Sam Darnold. That's actual just nonsense. And having Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray back to back is outrageous. It's giving Kyler too many things. Kyler Murray right now is like, dude, Dynasty, man. I'm like right behind the Super Bowl favorite. And he doesn't deserve it. So I could talk more crap about Tyler Murray, but why not? Let's talk up Tyler Shuck a little bit. Let's talk him up. So I'm not going to go ad nauseum. We've already been going for about an hour, but I think Tyler Shuck, he is my rookie of the year. I know he can't win because he only started playing, I think, since week 11, but he's not played very many games, or maybe it's 11 games he's played total. I have the week wrong. But in what we've seen from him, I've seen a guy who makes many, many less rookie mistakes than we expected. He's super old. He's played in 1 billion games, right? I mean, he's older than like half the quarterbacks in the NFL. Scary, but it's actually true. Like the dude is the dude is old, man. We should be hanging out. But look, I think the experience showed, right? Like he didn't lose one game. His team lost. He didn't lose any games. It was not his fault. There was not one play where you could say like, oh man, did he cost him the game? Never happened. I saw him win games. I never saw him lose games. He's a guy that has basically no weapons, right? Like this is where I give Sam Darnold a lot of credit. Sam Darnold didn't just overcome adversity, changing teams, new coach. Like he kind of like only has JSN in a run game. Like he has to make AJ Barner work and stuff like that. That just takes talent. I saw Tyler Shuck in a similar situation of, I mean, he had Olave and that's it. And what do you think? He's not going to risk killing Olave in his rookie season, like literally ending him. Like that's not going to happen. He didn't. I saw seasoned quarterbacks kill Olave and the rookie didn't. That's commendable, right? That's actually commendable. Kept him in close games. That's commendable. Clever use of his legs in a similar way to Mahomes, if it's actually better. He's not a rushing quarterback, but he's athletic. What, 250-plus yard rushing touchdowns? One, that's also top end speed. That's like he outran players. That's real man physicality. You're outrunning NFL players. Dude, sit down. That does not happen in the NFL. Mahomes is not outrunning players. He's just running kind of in proximity to them. Shuck was just like, I'm gone. That was impressive to me. That was an actual skill set. That's going to make coaches be like, yeah, we could use that. That's going to make defenses. All of a sudden, you got to spy him. The tiny little rookie Tyler Shuck, you got to put a middle linebacker spy on him. It's crazy, but you do. He's pretty good. So what if you gave him a solid, competent wide receiver too? Like, what if you built a decent offense around him? I think that's a team that could move the ball. You're telling me, like, could I get Jacoby Brissett level play? Like Brissett had that long run of like, dude, is he a top 5 quarterback? What's happening in Dynasty fantasy right now? I think Shuck could be that. I really think he could be a pretty big stabilizing force on that team. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 12 dynasty quarterback, but I think he's like a perfect, like, oops QB2 out of nowhere, super consistent, oops random 3, 4, 5, 6 points from his legs out of nowhere. I really feel like he's all mid-range upside, very little downside. I think he could see declining player, declining team play, and maybe he's not still a starting quarterback in 4 or 5 years because other guys just come in, are better, rough situations. So you never have to pay big for him. He's Tyler Shuck, but I do think he's a situation where there was a time where Darnold was dirt cheap because everyone thought changing teams were really spicy on, was it Jalen Milroe that's sitting behind him, and people were starting to draft Milroe about the same place he was. And we were very wrong. I'm hoping that Tyler Shuck is perennially undervalued until he's just fairly valued. And I think I want to get on the bandwagon during the value train. I'll never overvalue him, but I think he's being undervalued at 23. And I think in half a year, they'll like bump him like 2 spots and he'll still be undervalued. He'll be like the Tyler Lockett at wide receiver, just forever produces, undervalued, good enough to get it done. Probably won't get injured because he's smart. You could do worse. You could do a lot worse than Tyler Shuck. We talked about it earlier, like your Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray for Tyler Shuck right now is not crazy. And honestly, I kind of want Tyler Shuck just straight up, like without thinking twice.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because in tier 4, like if I need to rank Tyler Shuck right now, I want to split hairs over where in tier 4 he's at right now. Because I have Jackson Dart above Cam Ward, and below Cam Ward, I want to put Tyler Shuck right there. I think Tyler Shuck has enough dynasty value in tier 4 to be considered a mid-range QB2 as a sort of standard baseline, just based off of what the New Orleans Saints have to offer right now with Chris Olave that has to do way more than what he should have to do, and Alvin Kamara that's probably on the verge of retiring because he got injured yet again because for whatever reason, Kellen Moore doesn't know how to use Alvin Kamara, but that's a different story. And we saw what happened. So here's the thing about Tyler Shuck too that I don't think enough people are talking about. Jacoby Brissett, as we just talked about as a comparison, has to throw the football a minimum of 30 times per game because the running game is non-existent on the Arizona Cardinals. They lost James Conner, they lost Trey Benson, and their running game sucks. They have a bunch of backups that can't get it done with their split backfield, so they have to throw a lot. And it's the same situation here with the New Orleans Saints. They lost Alvin Kamara, they lost Kendre Miller, they lost Devin Neal, so they're down to Audric Estime and Evan Hull. Those are running backs you do not want to have to rely on in your running game, similar to like Michael Carter and Mari DeMercado out in Arizona. So Tyler Shuck is throwing 43 times and 49 times in 2 separate games for a good reason. He did that respectively in Week 12 and Week 16 against the Falcons and Jets. So it's not often you see quarterbacks throwing that much unless it's a shootout, unless the defense isn't getting it done. And yeah, so it's not that uncommon to see Tyler Shuck throwing less than 30 times because what run game does the Saints have to support him? Nothing. They're going to have to draft a replacement for Kamara at some point. I'm not convinced that Devin Neal and Kendre Miller are the guys either. I mean, unless they want to go with a running back by committee, that remains to be seen. But you're right, Kendall. So they got Chris Olave. They got Juwan Johnson, who was actually my favorite tight end to go pick up in every free agent show that I did in the 2025 season. Yeah, love Juwan Johnson. But then there's just no solid wide receiver two behind Chris Olave. They were having to roll out Dante Pettis out there. That's how bad it was getting. So Tyler Shuck was made fun of a lot in the fantasy football community because he was an older quarterback. He was 25 years old coming out of college, going on 26, and people thought that was too old and he's not going to be good. But he had the experience necessary because he spent enough time in college to get developed to be NFL ready in a Kellen Moore offense. And if the Saints can build upon that and build around him, he could be their mid-range QB2 franchise quarterback. So if you're interested in buying Tyler Shuck, if you get him for like a third round, well, I guess at this point you could make a case to buy him for a second round pick at this point. But if you're buying him for less than a second, fantastic value for you.
I think if you buy him for 2 seconds, you'll be able to trade him for a late first whenever you want to, as soon as he normalizes next year. And he will normalize as just a thing in the NFL. Yeah, great dude, man. I'm in, man. I might have to get me a Tyler Shuck jersey. I'm the dad in my community. I need like the dad NFL jersey. That's just Tyler Shuck right there, man. I'm in there. I'm starting to become like a full-fledged Tyler Shuck truth there. Let's go. Never thought I'd see myself there. Man, I got some weird takes, but all right, cool. Should we round this thing out here a little bit? We could talk about a million more guys, and we will. By the way, if you're still with us, appreciate it. We're going to be doing several more parts of these. Watch all the great fantasy content out there, but watch us too. So we got more parts coming up. We'll be talking about them. If you like what we talked about and you want to talk about it a little bit more, we have the best draft community I've ever been a part of. I was a fan of our draft community before joining the show, becoming an owner. But really, seriously, if you like mock drafting, we do it a lot. Come on into our Discord. We'll have links, descriptions, all the stuff below as we record it. But seriously, join if you have a player that we didn't talk about. You want to go for days on Stafford's dynasty value, even though he's old? Hop in. We will type paragraphs and novels and then talk about it more on the show. We really do answer basically every question, and we don't just type 2 answers. We type it a long time. So small PSA, get in the Discord, like and subscribe. You know the deal. Back to football. Let's talk Tua because it's Tua and it's fun. We got the Dolphins. They got some things, right? We just fired our head coach, RIP Mike McDaniels. So we got Tua. Interesting situation. Nobody that owns him feels good. But what's the take on Tua right now? So just to give you an idea, we ended with Tyler Shuck. The end of tier 4 was Matthew Stafford at 25. Tier 5 starts with Matthew Stafford 25, Michael Penix 26, Daniel Jones 27, Tua 28, and then A-Rich, Malik Willis, Shadur, Justin Fields, Jalen Milroe, Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith, Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins. So Tua at QB 28. Evan, you got some takes here. What do you think?
Tua Tagovailoa is in a position similar to Kyler Murray. I'm not saying they are the same quarterback because they absolutely are not. But at this stage in both of their careers, Tua Tagovailoa appears to have peaked if we just look at his numbers. He hasn't gotten better since 2023. Tua Tagovailoa, don't get me wrong, is the luckiest man in the NFL health-wise. He had 2 major concussions that he's lucky to still be alive from. I'm sure you remember the couple of concussions he had where you could see the fingers separating as a result of just the brain trauma that you never like to see on any NFL player. And he had that week 2 in 2024, and he had that week 4 in 2022, and he had another one in week 16 of 2022. So if we have a real count, he's got 3 confirmed concussions in his career, which you do not like to see. That's like the beginning of like a Troy Aikman level of concussion count, which in this day and age in football, you do not want with any of your quarterbacks. Anyway, Tua Tagovailoa, he was benched in week 16 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike McDaniel put him as the QB3 on the depth chart. And when any head coach does that to a quarterback, that means the team is done with them. This is exactly what happened with Brian Daboll and Daniel Jones of the New York Giants. That was the telltale sign that they're getting rid of him. So Daniel Jones got granted a release from the New York Giants, but it's not going to be that simple with Tua Tagovailoa. Tua Tagovailoa costs $99.2 million in dead cap for the 2026 season. He will cost $34.8 million in 2027. He will not be a very simple guy to trade at this point because of his expensive contract. And like I said earlier, if you take a look at the numbers that he's been posting, or lack thereof numbers, it is not good for Tua Tagovailoa. And at this stage, I think a fresh start on a different team would be good for him. I think he overstayed his welcome with the Miami Dolphins. I don't think he has a bad work ethic necessarily, but when he's not getting better, that is not something you want out of a quarterback that you paid a 4-year, $212.4 million contract. When you see decline in that, that's an awful waste of money that Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, put out there. So I don't see who's going to be trading for a Tua Tagovailoa because I don't think the Cardinals are going to be trying to trade Kyler for Tua straight up. But just like Kyler, Tua Tagovailoa has a plummeted dynasty value, which makes him nearly impossible to trade for anything worthwhile. So if you can trade Tua for peanuts, go right ahead and do that because I don't think his value is coming back up ever again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on the I think his value is so dead that it's hard to do any deal because the guy's like, you're going to ask for something real, and I don't want to give you anything real for Tua. So you have to basically find a way to say, I get that. So I'm not going to ask for anything halfway decent. Can I just get a conglomeration of pieces you're going to throw away anyways? So you have one consolidated. Maybe something happens. Fine. If you're talking to that guy, he believes something, right? I would can you go get a couple of thirds for him? I'd be thrilled with that, right? Like I love my late dart throws. You can find value. 2/3 seems crazy low, but it's probably realistic. It might be. I just want to get a couple thirds in a dart throw. Like if I can get 3/3, I would. And then if they counter with something else, I would trade him for 2/3 and a fourth just to give me some dart throws. I'll do something with it. And I think he's completely just a backup quality that becomes a bridge for a couple games for some. I do think he gets the Justin Fields treatment at some point. I could see a 2-year short-term deal that absolutely doesn't work out. But I could see a team being like, it wasn't going to work out anyways. We weren't planning on it. We were just actual effed and we had to do something. So Tua, right? I could see that. I don't know who. It's not going to be the Raiders. A couple teams. I think it's like the next tire fire. Could Justin Fields him in a year or something like that? But I don't think he ever really comes back to do anything. And when he does, I don't think it's enough PPG to matter. So yeah, couple of thirds, couple of dart throws, some rookies that didn't pan out type of a thing. I would do it. Because even when he's playing as a starting quarterback again, I would never start him. I don't think he's startable for fantasy. So even if you gave me 18 healthy games on let's just say something crazy. Let's say Mendoza doesn't exist and he goes to what the Raiders would be next year, or something along those lines, or the Jets, or whoever takes him is not going to be a good team and he'll be bad on it. Right. So he's done. It's over. And it's about accepting the type of deal you could get done. So I'm looking forward to finding. I would love some submissions. I want to see, how did you creatively get rid of Tua, right? What could you get? And how does that play out? Because whatever assets you got for him are probably not valued highly now, but they could become something at some point in time. If they become anything, they're probably better. So I'd be curious. This is a great poll for what's a disgusting post-hype guy who's not great, but would be a target for a flip with Tua, or who is a part of a 3-4 piece, 3-for-1. Who are those targets? We'll get into more shows with those, but I think that could be an interesting conversation that could be worth something. But hey,
yeah. So I was gonna say, in a super flex league or 2-quarterback league, if you're offering 2/3 for Tua Tagovailoa, I could see how that would be considered an insulting offer. But if it's a 1-quarterback league, I'm taking it. I'm taking those 2/3 because I'd rather hold those 2/3 in a 1-quarterback league than Tua Tagovailoa at this stage. Because I don't think Tua's even worth that anymore.
Yeah, in 1 QB, I think he is borderline droppable. I think at that point he is legitimately a single third or worse. That's it.
So I want to say this real quick at this point. The date of this episode that we're recording this is January 8th of 2026. I see him in Dynasty PPR formats. In 1-quarterback leagues in Sleeper, he is 18% rostered. A lot of people have dropped him in Dynasty.
Yeah. In 1 QB, I see it. Right, he's like a guy where you look at the outside of the top 32, and you look at guys like Brissett, Mac Jones. I would rather roster Jacoby Brissett, Mac Jones, Malik Willis than Tua easily.
Yeah. Yeah, because
One's
at least
usable.
they have a better path to playing time, and Malik Willis is going to put up better numbers than what Tua has done in the final. I guess final. Yeah, since like week 7, basically. Ever since he had that 3-interception game against the 3-interception and 3-fumble game against the Cleveland Browns, he's never been the same.
Yeah, he really hasn't, and yeah, messy situation, but no one likes Tua. This was the how bad do we hate him and what do you do with him? And I'm curious. I think this is the let's figure out what we can do with him. I happen to own Tua in a few places, so maybe we'll have some very interesting live streams later on where it's just me and you trying to sell Tua for an hour and see if we can. That would be a fun exercise. We'll see what happens. But hey, we're at time. We have been recording this for an hour and 10 minutes. If you care, I wonder what the final video comes down to. We'll get there. This was a super early look into Dynasty rankings. We focused on the QB position today. Kind of went through about the top 30 or so, picked out a couple. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, please check us out. Descriptions below, all the stuff. This is us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network. What are we known for? If you like mock drafting, you're going to love us. We've got the craziest mock draft tournament you've ever not been a part of. Come on down. It's awesome. And we'll have a lot of Dynasty content over the next couple of weeks. Big thing we got right now is a Discord with a lot of guys that actually responds to literally everything, and a sharp community, always running their own drafts. A bunch of our draft community is also pretty heavily involved in things like Scott Fish Bowl and other international and charity tournaments. So they're pretty sharp guys. This is where they like to hang out. So we'll welcome you as well. We got DFS shows coming up too. I'm going to be doing a lot of prop betting this year, so we're going to do a lot. Maybe a new show coming. Maybe I'll soft drop it. But in the off season, we're hoping to launch the Bet Right podcast. So we'll see how that goes. More to come. But hey, we appreciate you hanging out, man. Do what you do. Keep playing fantasy. Spend time with the family. Go enjoy the playoffs. Go Bears, 2 seed. Bear Nation, let's get it. Bear down, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.